say barefaced lies. I'll say barefaced lies. I'll say barefaced lies. Again, barefaced lies. I'll say barefaced lies. I'll say barefaced lies. I'll say barefaced lies. Again.
That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Do you wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah? Do you feel we never wanna defend, yeah? Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shooting cold, overgrown, postal phony, barefaced lies.
Barefaced lies. Barefaced lies.
Hey son, you got a party, you got that little party going on there. Keep to the left, you can't think right, so everything you do goes wrong, yeah. Incompetence just leads to disaster. Corruption brings it on even faster. What you say?
That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Do you wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah? Do you think we ever wanna defend, yeah? Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shooting cold, overgrown, postal phony, barefaced. That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Do you wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah? Do you think we ever wanna defend, yeah? Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shooting cold, overgrown, postal phony, barefaced lies.
Barefaced lies. Barefaced lies.
Comrades, you always told us you'd build us all a new Jerusalem, yeah. You talk the talk, but when you walk, you only leave a crooked line there. And you don't see the trouble that's brewing if all you do is just what you're doing.
That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Do you wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah? Do you think we ever wanna defend, yeah? Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shooting cold, overgrown, postal phony, barefaced lies.
Is this where you wanna be? Debt and childhood poverty. Won't somebody set us free from this corrupt kleptocracy? Oh yeah.
Barefaced lies.
That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Do you wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah? Do you think we ever wanna defend, yeah? Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shooting cold, overgrown, postal phony, barefaced. That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Do you wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah? Do you think we ever wanna defend, yeah? Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shooting cold, overgrown, postal phony, barefaced. That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Do you wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah? Do you think that we ever wanna defend, yeah? Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shooting cold, overgrown, postal phony, barefaced. That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Do you wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah? Do you think we ever wanna defend, yeah? Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise.
not fear them. Do not fear any of them. On the 20th of November 2003, James Ignatius O'Rourke McMahon was elected councillor for the Failsworth East Ward of Oldham. Deeply ambitious, he ruthlessly rose to power, and by 2011 he was already leader of the council. In 2015, exploiting a Labour Party loophole, he became MP for Oldham West and Royton. If only the people of the town knew then what they now know. Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.
It's important to appreciate what happened when, and I understand that. Obviously, the post, the diplomatic post of American ambassador, really important post, and Peter Mandelson, before he was appointed, went through a due diligence process. That's the propriety and ethics team went through a process, and therefore I knew of his association with Epstein. But had I known then what I know now, I'd have never appointed him, because what emerged last week were emails, Bloomberg emails, which showed that the nature and extent of the relationship that Peter Mandelson had with Epstein was far different to what I had understood to be the position when I appointed him. On top of that, what the email showed was he was not only questioning, but wanting to challenge the conviction of Epstein at the time. That, for me, went and cut across the whole approach that I've taken on violence against women and girls for many years, and this government's approach. On top of that, what emerged last week, on Wednesday evening late, were Peter Mandelson's responses to questions that have been put to him by government officials. I looked at those responses and I did not find them at all satisfying. And therefore, on the basis of those three things, the nature and extent of the relationship being far different to what I'd understood to be the position at the point of appointment, the questioning and challenging of the conviction, which, as I say, goes to the heart and cuts across what this government is doing on violence against women and girls, and the unsatisfactory nature of the responses from Peter Mandelson last week to the inquiries that made of him by government officials, I took the decision to remove him.
You said that details emerged Wednesday afternoon, but from what we can work out, details were furnished to bits of the Whitehall machinery, the Foreign Office and Downing Street, quite a bit ahead of you defending Peter Mandelson on Wednesday at Prime Minister's questions. And people are scratching their heads saying, why didn't you, the Prime Minister, make more effort to make sure you were briefed on this? Were people briefing you properly? Were they acting on your behalf? Were they acting slightly on Peter Mandelson's behalf, maybe? Bits of the machine. Well,
let me deal with that, because it was only on Wednesday early evening that I knew the contents of the Bloomberg emails. It was only very late on Wednesday when Peter Mandelson replied to the questions that had been put to him by government officials, and it was on that basis that I took my decision that he should be removed. What I knew before PMQs was that there had been media inquiries. I didn't know the content of the Bloomberg emails, and I knew that questions had been put to Peter that he had not yet answered, and he hadn't answered them by the time it got to PMQs. There is, of course, a time lag in America, but I knew that there are questions that have been put to him, but I didn't know what answers he was going to give to those questions. That came later on Wednesday. And that's why, at that point, I gave the answer I did at PMQs, and that's the extent of what I knew at the time.
Very, very Good evening. Monday the 15th, is that right, of September 2025. My name is Raja Mir. This is one of those Recusant 9 transmissions. First and foremost, my sincerest apologies for the late cancellation last night. I get migraines. It's no more complicated than that, and sometimes when I get migraines I'm just unable to function. So that's what took place yesterday. I have turned the chat on to everyone, being able to chat as long as you're a subscriber to the channel. So that's what I've done. So people should be able to chat. I turned off the member only chat because of a couple of emails from people I respect and value. My issue has been that before we finished for the summer, there was a lot of extremely, for me, racist, extremist, and also some of the Islamists were posting and distracting people. And we understand why they're doing that, but I think you need to understand why I turn that chat on. Every time, my transmissions are monitored by the police. It's as simple as that. My transmissions are also monitored by the Labour Party. The reason I know this is that Labour Party politicians have attempted to sue me off the content and the live stream in the live chat of people who I don't even know. So that is why I turned the member only on. I'll try again. So I'll try again this evening and see where we end up, and I'll let's see where we go. Now, so we very, very clear on what's taking place. This is the Prime Minister we're talking about, claiming he didn't know. And instead of saying he didn't know, what he's saying is he didn't know the extent of Mandelson's relationship association with Epstein. Now, he knew of his association, but he didn't know the extent of it. This is not how government works. Mandelson was appointed the ambassador to the United States. It is the most senior ambassadorial position that can exist. And there is not a chance in hell that the Prime Minister was not given a dossier of information from MI6. It's as simple as that. There would have been a security services dossier put on the Prime Minister's desk. And MI6 is far more than just a newspaper. And Starmer would have known, and if he doesn't know, he would have intentionally avoided looking at the document that did cross his desk. Remember, this is the politician who claimed Jimmy Savile's file did not cross his desk. This is the politician who, as the, Crown Prosecution Service in charge, chief prosecutor in the Crown Prosecution Service, for all those years, the rape gang files, many of them would have passed his desk, and yet he still stood in January and delivered a speech claiming it was a far-right bandwagon. So, without a shadow of a doubt, I just can't see how it can continue for him. I honestly cannot see how it can continue for him, because there are Labour Party politicians, prior to this statement just a couple of hours ago, there are Labour Party politicians who have been manoeuvring to remove him and put in place someone else. Now, the sequence of events for the politicians in the Labour Party who wanted him removed, in an ideal world for them, was, first and foremost, for Andy Burnham to secure himself an MP position from which he could then challenge. That was what these people wanted. And for Andy Burnham to secure himself an MP position, an existing MP, my understanding was it was Graham Stringer, would have to step down for Andy Burnham to contest the by-election, and then once he was MP, for there to be a leadership challenge. Unfortunately for Keir Starmer, the situation is now no longer in his hands. It definitely isn't in the hands of Andy Burnham and those who are associated with him, because what we now have is a Prime Minister acknowledging he knew Mandelson had an association with one of the most prolific child sex offender traffickers in the world. Let's get this right. Epstein was one of the most prolific child sex offenders, child sex traffickers in the entire world, and the Prime Minister knew of Mandelson's association with him, and the Prime Minister still appointed him. And now what the Prime Minister is saying is, oh, I knew they were mates, but I didn't know the full extent of the relationship. Surely, if you knew they were mates, you then had a duty to ask for details of the full extent of the relationship. Am I getting this wrong? Tell me if I'm getting this wrong. Let's see what the BBC had to say. I would never have appointed Mandelson had I known full Epstein links. Sir Keir Starmer has said he would never have appointed, let's make this bigger for you, Peter Mandelson as his ambassador to the United States if he had known the full details of his relationship with convicted paedophile Jeffrey Epstein. In his first comments since sacking Lord Mandelson, and remember the sacking only came about after the newspaper revelations, and in the first instance he stood up at Prime Minister's questions last week or the week before, last week, and did not sack him, defended him. In his first comments since sacking Lord Mandelson, Sir Keir said the Labour peer went through a proper due diligence process before his appointment. But he added, had I known then what I know now, I'd have never appointed him. So he is there throwing MI6 under the bus. This is the Prime Minister saying the security services did not do their job with the due diligence. Well, then I would then argue, if the security services, let's believe the Prime Minister for a second. If the security services, if MI6 failed to do its job, then MI6 is infested with child sex offenders and paedophiles. That's the only conclusion you can come to. Because the security services would have known all of this and more. They would have known all of this and more. So either the security services are infested with paedophiles and child traffickers who then protected Mandelson and hid the information from the Prime Minister, or the security services did do their job and the Prime Minister is being economical with the truth. Sir Keir gave public backing to Lord Mandelson in the Commons on Wednesday, only to sack him the following day. You see, what happened there was that those who wanted this out in the way they wanted it out gave the Prime Minister enough rope. And boy, did he take that rope. That's what happened there. That information that came out on Thursday or on Wednesday afterwards was intentionally delayed, whereby providing the Prime Minister with the opportunity to further publicly back Mandelson in the House of Commons at Prime Minister's questions time on Wednesday. It was well done by those who wanted to expose this and bring this to public attention. Opposition MPs will get a chance to put further pressure on the government after the Speaker granted the Tories an emergency debate on the appointment on Tuesday. Now, the emails reported by Bloomberg showed supportive messages Lord Mandelson sent to Epstein in 2008 following his guilty plea. The leaked emails, like hell MI6 didn't have these emails, the leaked emails include passages in which Lord Mandelson told Epstein to fight for early release shortly before he was sentenced to 18 months in prison. He is also reported to have told Epstein, "I think the world of you," the day before the disgraced financier began his sentence for soliciting prostitution from a minor in June 2008. Speaking to reporters, Sir Keir said the messages showed Lord Mandelson was not only questioning but wanting to challenge the conviction of Epstein at the time. Lord Mandelson's emails cut across the whole approach that I've taken on violence against women and girls for many years, and this government, he added. Listen, you prick. That's me calling the Prime Minister a prick. Listen, you prick. If this government, for many years, or your approach against violence against women, violence against women and girls for many years, had been your policy, had been your philosophy, had been fundamental to your beliefs, you prick, you would never have appointed Mandelson into the position he is, would you, you prick? Do you see? You've seen how we have systematically over the years dismantled the lies told by politicians on a local level. Well, here we are systematically dismantling the defence of the Prime Minister. Now, what really should happen is that I shouldn't be doing this. The BBC should be doing this. The Guardian should be doing this. But we know they're not likely to, because all I am doing is analysing and critiquing exactly what he said, what the Prime Minister is saying, and questioning, well, if you thought this, then surely you would have done that. The email showed the nature and extent of the relationship that Peter Mandelson had with Epstein was far different to what I had understood to be the position when I appointed him. So what had you understood to be the position when you appointed him? It's an obvious question, isn't it? What had you understood to be the position when you had appointed him? Sir Keir added he was not at all satisfied with Lord Mandelson's responses to questions put to him by government officials. Well, what were the questions? What were the responses? What would have quantified a satisfactory response? When were these questions asked? Were they asked before you defended him on Wednesday? The Prime Minister has faced questions about his judgment in appointing the peer whose friendship with Epstein was public knowledge in the first place. Sir Keir insisted he did not know what was in the emails when he defended the US ambassador at Prime Minister's questions, but said he knew Foreign Office officials had asked Lord Mandelson questions about the email. So he didn't know what was in the email, but he knew Foreign Office officials had asked Mandelson questions about the email. So he knew there was an email. So what did they say? What did the advisors say to you, you prick? Ooh, there's an email, but we don't know what's in it and we can't speculate, but we're going to ask him. Do me a favour. Absolutely do me a favour. This man, this rape gang protecting leader of the Labour Party, of the government, well, I think it's very, very clear now that as well as protecting the rape gangs for all the reasons they protected the rape gangs, there is something darker, something more sinister at the heart of the political establishment in this country. And again, tell me if you think I am being unfair or if I am stretching my analysis. Please, tell me. Tell me if I've got this wrong. The scandal coming so soon after Angela Rayner's resignation as Deputy Prime Minister has encouraged some Labour MPs to become more vocal about their frustrations with the Prime Minister's leadership and the wider Downing Street operation. And then there's something else about Diane Abbott and another one of his senior aides coming up with some nonsense, but that's by the by. So off the back of that, off the back of this, the Prime Minister of this country's position is completely untenable. And every Labour Party MP that refuses to call for his resignation is complicit in the Prime Minister's support for Epstein. And again, tell me if I'm interpreting this wrong. If you know that your Prime Minister, as a Labour Party MP or a Labour Party politician, did what he did here, and you don't call for his resignation, then you are a supporter of Epstein in the same way your Prime Minister is. I never thought I would live to see something like this. I never thought I would live to see something like this. The Prime Minister's position is untenable. He has to resign. And if he doesn't resign, then his own MPs need to demand his resignation, because if they don't demand his resignation, they also are supporters of what has taken place, which is the supporting of a Labour Party peer who has a deep, deep friendship with one of the most infamous child abusers, child traffickers we have known. and who he tried to support, as in Mandelson, tried to support and reduce his sentence. The Prime Minister has got to resign, and for every one of us in the United Kingdom, irrespective of our political allegiances or whether we're interested in this or not, this is a day of shame. This genuinely is a day of shame, and if he does not resign, then we will be forever looked on the world stage as a nation where our political leaders share a bed with paedophiles. We will see what happens tomorrow. I might, depending on what time it is, I will try and record it and come back straight afterwards. I want to watch it the same as you all want to watch it, so I don't want to do a live watch along because I want to watch what transpires, but I'll come along tomorrow and I'll follow this up. But honestly, what I had prepared yesterday, I've paused to move with this because this is uncharted territory for all of us. Never before seen. Absolutely never before seen. For those of you who are new to me, my name is Raja. I put out these transmissions. I'm essentially a campaigner. I'm not a YouTuber or anything like that. I have random bits of lights and cameras. I have no understanding of how to use most of it. As those of you who joined me at the beginning will have found out, I'd not plugged in the iPad that plays the video. So that's what I'd not done at the beginning of this evening. I've been campaigning on exposing the cover-up of the rape gangs now for 7 years. My friend, the dearly departed Warren Bates, put in front of me a dossier of information. He was a complete stranger to me when he put that dossier in just over 7 years ago, and we've been on this campaign ever since. All we are asking for is that the National Inquiry do its job, and we put an end to this. The politicians, the police officers, the public officials involved in the cover-up or complicit in the actual rape gangs themselves need to be identified and put in prison, and all those who raped our children need also to be identified and prosecuted irrespective of who they are or how far they've run away, and most significantly, the survivors need to be compensated. Our campaign is as simple as that, and we have been on this journey for 7 years. I appreciate and I respect and I value all of those who are doing similar type of work long before I came along. But I am a political campaigner. I made this political and effective because we took politicians to task and we targeted them at the ballot box and we removed them one after another after another. And that's why I am here. And I've spent just over 3 years on police bail because the police, along with the Labour Party, fabricated evidence to try and have me falsely imprisoned because of the lawful campaigning I was undertaking. And now, 7 years later, isn't karma a bitch? We now find the Prime Minister is neck deep in the cover-up of the rape of children. We've had a challenging couple of weeks, those of you who follow me on Facebook. I know I have a good profile on X, and a lot of people do watch me and engage with me on X, but the elder supporters, so we say, and the less politically active supporters very much follow me on Facebook. We lost our account for 2 weeks. Facebook just decided like that to remove us, claiming we are responsible. I was responsible for some sort of cyber security thing. What had happened and what still happening is there is a fake account out there that it is smearing me, and Facebook and Greater Manchester Police are refusing to do anything about it so far. But we ended up getting the kind help of a brilliant intellectual property copyright lawyer, and their actions meant that we are back on Facebook, and you can see immediately our distribution is increasing because of the high quality content that we are producing. So thank you for all of you who complained to Facebook and kept reporting to Facebook, and without your help and without the help of Liz, none of this would have happened where we are back on the platform. I want to move on to something else I wanted to talk about with you this evening, and this was to do with the rally organised by Tommy Robinson on Saturday. Now, I've made my position on Tommy Robinson clear for some time, and he left a message on my phone not that long ago, and I've tried to reach out to him. I'm sure we'll sit down and talk at some point in our lives. So that will happen. But what I found really unfair is how they use the term far right every time. Far right, extremist, all of that every time. And it's to demonize so many of us. And whilst there is no doubt that there is an element, as with all movements, a violent element or an extreme element, the majority of people who attended Saturday were nothing of the sort. They were decent people. However, this is what Keir Starmer had to say. People have a right to peaceful protest. It is core to our country's values. Not free speech though. But we will not stand for assaults on police officers doing their job, or for people feeling intimidated on our streets because of their background or the colour of their skin. Do you see how he's just woven that in straight away? Who felt intimidated because of their background or the colour of their skin? It is completely fake, and it is a narrative that the establishment was pushing, because as those who went to the protest, whether you agree with it or not is irrelevant, those who went to the protest will know that there were people of all backgrounds and different colours of skin in the crowds. Right? There were people of all different backgrounds, 100%. And whilst there was assaults on the police, and the video cameras were there zooming on, and there was some conflict, it was very, very minor. 20 people, 25 people out of how many were there? How many were there? The government downplayed it to 100,000. Tommy Robinson and his organisers say 3 million. Having looked at it, it definitely wasn't 3 million, and it definitely wasn't 100,000. And the truth is somewhere in the middle. I'd say at least 500,000 people turned out, which is remarkable. Because we know if the Prime Minister held a rally, if Keir Starmer held a rally, well, maybe 3 million of us would turn out, but it wouldn't be to support him, would we? And that is the message there, I would say, to our establishment politicians. You cannot stop what is coming, and demonising us as racist and far right is not going to work. And trying to say we will not stand for assaults on police officers. You know, Starmer, and I know that there are far more police officers assaulted every year at Notting Hill Carnival. Far more acts of violence, knife crime, all of that. Yet you celebrate that. We celebrate the carnival rather than condemning it. Britain is a nation proudly built on tolerance, diversity and respect. Now, I would question the use of the word diversity in that sentence. I would agree with you that Britain is a nation proudly built on tolerance and respect. but question the use of your term diversity in the way I believe you to mean it. Because I do not believe that the diversity the Prime Minister makes reference to is what helped build the proud nation that so many of us believe in. Our flag represents our diverse country, and we will never surrender it to those that use it as a symbol of violence, fear, and division. Our flag does not represent our diverse country, again, in the way he means it. Our flag represents our identity. And what Starmer wants to deflect away from is that it is our identity, our way of life, our history, our values, everything we believe in, that is at risk. And the people who object to the governance of this country, under both the Conservatives and now Labour, the Uni Party, our numbers are growing. We have right on our side. And as Trevor Phillips made reference to afterwards, we are ordinary people. We are nothing but ordinary people.
That the person most taken aback by the huge turnout at yesterday's Unite the Kingdom demonstration was its organiser, the hard-right activist known as Tommy Robinson. 150,000 people crammed into central London, most carrying national flags, the Union Jack, the Cross of St George, even the Scottish saltire, protesting about immigration, about free speech, and about the decline of Christianity. There was some fearsome rhetoric, including from Elon Musk, who called for the overthrow of the British government. At the margins, there was some hooliganism. But I think that for those who oppose Robinson and his ilk, the most alarming aspect of the event was just how normal the vast majority of the marchers were. I spent an hour or two amongst them, and my own impression was that they were mostly the sort of people you'd meet in a country pub or in half-time queue for the loo at football or at a concert. There was a sprinkling of black and brown faces, and the event was brought to a close by a gospel group singing Jerusalem. All that must worry the traditional mass parties, Labour and Conservatives, now polling at less than 40% between them. They're draining support to parties like Reform and the Greens. And yet, a man recently out of jail, condemned as an extremist thug by most mainstream media outlets, can rally a demo the size of the entire population of Cambridge or Blackpool. A feat you couldn't imagine either Sir Keir Starmer or Kemi Badenoch pulling off anytime soon. Perhaps the people are sending us all a message. Let's see if anyone at Westminster's listening.
So we are clear, for those of you who are new to Trevor Phillips, he's not a TV presenter historically. He was the chair of the Racial Equality Commission. He was later headed up the Equality and Human Rights Commission. That's where I know Trevor Phillips from. He was a card-carrying senior Labour Party operative. And this is the journey this man has been on. And when a man such as Trevor Phillips has been on such a journey, and is brave enough to articulate his views and opinions in the way he just has done, and did on live Sky News, he of course is risking his own career. And for those of you who are saying Sky have deleted it now, this is what they have done. The original tweet was this: the most alarming aspect of the event was just how normal the vast majority of the marches were. Quote. So they quoted Trevor Phillips, and then at Trevor PT, Trevor Phillips shares his thoughts on the day, including on those who attended the Unite the Kingdom protest, with the video I've just played. They deleted that and put this in instead. Trevor Phillips shares his thoughts after 150,000 people attended the Unite the Kingdom rally, led by far-right activist Tommy Robinson in London yesterday. You can see they've introduced the term far right, and they've removed the reference to the vast majority of people being normal. Do you see? Of course, I don't think approved that, what Trevor Phillips said, or the higher level ones didn't. Otherwise they would never have allowed him to say what he did. And this is the guy with Beth Rigby, who was relentless in her defence of Angela Rayner. And then we've got Bill Rammell, who's the former Labour minister, who had this to say. I acknowledge that the vast majority of these people on this march were peaceful, grudgingly, but they have to take account of who they associating themselves with, who they are associating themselves with. So who are they associating themselves with? Say for instance, we accept that Tommy Robinson is a far-right activist, and let's be clear what they mean by far-right, which is that people like me should be removed from this country. That's fundamentally what the far-right narrative in the United Kingdom has been. Say we accept that. My response to Bill would be, if the extremists are tapping into the legitimate grievances of the majority of people in this country, then that is not a failing on the majority of people in this country. That is a failing on the mainstream leaders, the mainstream political parties in this country, who are refusing to listen to the legitimate grievances of these people. Because if the vast majority of people are peaceful, if, as Trevor Phillips says, the vast majority of people were ordinary people like you and me, then why are the mainstream political parties refusing to listen to us, to hear what we say, and to respond to our legitimate grievances instead of gaslighting us and demonising us and branding us far right and racist? And I agree with you, Helen. I've seen Tommy Robinson repeatedly argue with people over their extreme position. I'm not the one who's describing him as far right or extremist or racist at all, so we're very, very clear. That's not my position on him at all. Listen to what he has to say. Bill Rammell.
Testing. Now, the issue I've got with the Prime Minister and and some of the cabinet ministers on the back of this bill is that they don't call it out when it's on their side. And I say their side, I mean on left-leaning politics. They don't call it out. They sit idly by while it happens. And this is the issue. Sadiq Khan, of course, a relatively okay tweet overall, but he didn't say that about Carnival. There was hundreds of arrests at Carnival. He never mentioned them one time. And this is the issue people have got. And when you look back at past prime ministers, my issue is you even compare Tony Blair, David Cameron to Keir Starmer. They didn't make these kind of divisive tweets and these divisive messages. They treated people the same, despite their difference in politics. Are we just moving away from that because politics are so divided now?
No. I mean, one, it's not accurate to say that Labour politicians and the Prime Minister haven't called out violent, aggressive, left-wing agitators, people wearing masks, wholly wrong in demonstrations. They've done that. And look, I acknowledge the vast majority of people on this march were peaceful. I disagree with them, but they were peaceful and they have a right to protest. But they have to take account of who they are associating themselves with. And this was a march organised by Tommy Robinson, who's a vile, violent extremist. He's been arrested and imprisoned on numerous occasions. He's a former soccer hooligan, former member of the British National Party, former founding member of the English Defence League, which was founded by soccer hooligans. He's joined a neo-Nazi group in Germany, and that contributes to a minority promoting and committing acts of violence, and they were serious acts of violence. But actually, the bit that I had most concerned about was the contribution from Elon Musk, which was deliberately inciting violence. And let me quote to you what he said. "Violence is going to come to you. You will have no choice. Fight back or die." That kind of tone, that kind of communication at that march is abhorrent and is wrong.
Which one of
I have been saying to my friends and all those who've become my friends, my family, all of you, right from the outset, that we need to fight back or die. Of course, the fight back I'm referencing is through the ballot box, is through legal means, and from what I could make out of the demonstration on Saturday, that's what the vast majority of people were doing. In fact, is Tommy Robinson now a member of Advance UK, and was Ben Habib not there? Now, as soon as they create a political party, a mainstream political party, I think it will get very, very interesting. It wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me, but I'm very clear on my position on fighting back, and as all of you, we believe in a fight at the ballot box.
Mr. Farage, you've distanced yourself from Tommy Robinson, but Elon Musk is amplifying him. Will you outright condemn their actions today? And also, what legal means do you think Elon Musk could possibly have in mind in saying that a democratically elected government should be overthrown?
As far as Mr. Musk's concerned, look, you know, he's been chucking abuse at me now for 6 months, and you want me to return the favour, don't you? Because it's a great headline. I'm just not going to do that. I'm not going to abuse Musk or Tommy Robinson or anything. We're going to get on with building what we're trying to build. Thank you very much.
And Mr. Farage, you described some of the majority of the people marching on Saturday as good and decent people, but we've also heard from ethnic minority Britons who were afraid to go out in central London on Saturday. Does that concern you at all?
As for the march again on Saturday, look, if some people were offended by it or felt worried by it, then that is a great shame. Tell you what's even worse, the fact that over 50% of women don't feel safe walking the streets of London. Can you believe that in our capital city? Can you believe it? And by the way, that's not just at night time. It includes during daytime too. Look, I knew Charlie Kirk for virtually 10 years, knew him pretty well, campaigned around America with him, spoke at Turning Point conferences. You know, I knew the guy very, very well, and obviously deeply upset by what happened. Some of the reaction to it was vile. Vile. But if you believe in free speech, you have to allow people to say distasteful things. But equally, if you believe in free speech, you believe there are limits to free speech. An incitement to kill, I would have thought, I know, is way beyond what even a free speech champion such as myself thinks is acceptable. And yes, these were aimed at me personally. I mean, look, it's not a very pleasant experience, let's put it like that. And so I did challenge the police to do something, but they've decided this does not meet the threshold. Gosh, imagine if I'd made some joke about the trans community. I'd probably be in real trouble. And that is at the heart of two-tier Britain, two-tier policing, two-tier justice, and two-tier care. And it's one of the reasons the flags are going up all over this country. The public have sussed it. The government is not on the side of ordinary, decent, working people.
I thought that was the best of the press conferences I've seen in such a long, long time involving Keir Starmer and reform. Thank you, Gary, for echoing my position. First and foremost, he refused to get drawn into a fight with Elon Musk. Why would you? And secondly, he backed away from condemning the people who attended, because he knows, like you know and I know, that so many of us, we're not the racists of the far right, and he needs our votes. He needs us on board. And with Advance UK becoming registered as a political party, well, actually, he cannot take that vote for granted. Reform cannot take that vote for granted. So they will have to listen to 500,000 people and more. So that is, I thought was really, really positive from Nigel Farage. I genuinely did. I thought, he's come a long way from where he was a few months ago, and we have to accept. We have to understand, and I'm not a supporter of his any more than many of you are, or, I'm indifferent to him, if I'm honest with you. I think he's a very, very effective politician. But personality-wise, I'm not going to buy a football T-shirt that says Farage on the back of it or anything like that. I think he is now becoming more measured and more reasoned, because he knows there will be genuine opposition to reform from the right, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I believe in democracy. I think in the same way reform have shaped the narrative of government, and they have, on everything to do with remigration, stop the boats, deporting foreign criminals, all of that. It's reform narrative that is being picked up and echoed by the government. The government are petrified of reform. I think what you will now see, in the same way reform have influenced the government, you will see the voice of Advance UK influence and shape the policy positions of reform. And before anyone says anything, I think it will play out between the likes of Habib, Farage, Rupert Lowe and others long before the general election comes to fruition, because the last thing any of us want to see, I believe, is that we fighting amongst ourselves, and because of that, Labour get back in. So let's see how this plays out. And I think Rupert Lowe, so we're clear, and I do sit on his rape gang inquiry team, his Restore Britain campaigning group, is basically a campaigning group, is doing remarkable work. They put out petitions. The latest one is about deporting criminals and basing them overseas and stuff, so they can be debated in Parliament, and within hours they're getting the 100,000. That level of organisation, you should not underestimate it. We are finally getting organised in a way that the socialist, extremist and militant left have been organised for decades. And it should be something we are all proud of. Now, I want to...
We've had a year of stasis.
Mr. Farage,
before I move on,
sorry,
I want to just make reference to what Nigel Farage said at the end in terms of the incitement of violence, the murder, the assassination last week. And we now know, two-tier policing and this two-tier justice system is prevalent not just in the United Kingdom, but pretty much everywhere in terms of liberal Western democracies. Our institutions have been hijacked, have been infiltrated. I think that's very, very clear to all of us. And Nigel Farage made reference to death threats he'd received and the police deciding that the threshold hadn't been reached. He's right. I know all about that. I know all about that. Today I got an email from Greater Manchester Police, the Chief Constable's office. Let's see if I can find it. Here we go. On behalf of the Chief Constable, I acknowledge receipt of your email correspondence received on the 4th of the 9th, 2025. Your email has been redirected to a senior officer for the review and response. You will be contacted in due course. This is following open threats of violence by an Islamist, by a jihadist who's got a Facebook account pretending to be me. Greater Manchester Police know who he is and they are refusing to investigate. I was walking through Oldham Town Centre on Friday morning. I parked my car in Sainsbury's, for those of you know, and I had a meeting with someone in the Spindles, in one of the coffee shops. I bumped into let's say an entrepreneur friend of mine who's wheeled and dealed. He's a decent soul, for all he's Jack the Lad perhaps, but he's a decent soul. Stopped me to tell me that there was now a price on me. A price to take me out. Greater Manchester Police know this, have known this. And they are partners, and the reason they are partners is because I have exposed their role in the cover-up of the grooming and gang rape of children and their complicity with Labour Party politicians who have direct links to Pakistani gangsters, the cartels, the Islamists. Sir Stephen Watson is fully aware of what's taking place. Andy Burnham is fully aware of what's taken place. Andy Burnham, remember, wants to become the next Prime Minister. I want to play a bit of this interview because I think it's worth it, worth listening to.
We've had a year of stasis and drift and the sham unity that comes from not doing anything bold or difficult or controversial. And the result is in the polls. And those lost voters aren't coming back. And every day more and more people are joining them in deserting the party that has failed. And so this is my tragic conclusion. The Conservative Party is over. Over as a national party. Over as the principal opposition to the left. But I'm not despondent, because conservatism is not over. It's never been needed more, and actually it's never been more vibrant. Because the failure of the Conservative Party has created space for an alternative. The flame is passing from one torch to another. The old torch, once so great, is guttering, spluttering, held weakly in uncertain hands. But the new torch is already alight, already brighter than the one it is replacing, held aloft in firm and confident hands. And while the torch is different, the flame is the same. The things we Conservatives all believe in: respect for the law, respect for our traditions, personal liberty, national sovereignty, free markets, belief in family, community, country, the trinity of obligations that give us identity and security and purpose. And if we strengthen these things, and the economy which supports them, and the armed forces which defend them, we can weather the storms that are coming, and we can make our country even greater. So I am honoured to have been asked by Nigel to work with him, with Zia Youssef, with Richard Tice and our other colleagues to help reform prepare for government. This is a team with the vision, the energy and the ideas that we need.
I think in the fullness of time we all will appreciate and understand the significance of Danny Kruger MP defecting to reform. This is a political heavyweight of standing, of experience, and you will see what happens. Now, what I wanted to share with you off the back of that was also this. As many of you know, and I know my life would be easier if I didn't engage in the politics of Oldham, but it is my hometown. And I have a duty and an obligation to the councillors who supported me to get the vote over the line that led to what took place, which is why the vast majority of you are here. They took great risks in doing what they did. And first and foremost, of course, is my friend in the middle there, Councillor Lewis Quigg, former Conservative. He is now the leader of reform in Oldham. He's flanked by the former police officer Mark Wilkinson, who we first supported, I think, 5 years ago. He removed Sean Fielding, the Labour Party leader, and of course Sandra Balder, who's a very, very good ward councillor. We can watch and admire and applaud what takes place at a national level, but for now our impact is, and the ability for us to deliver some change is at a local level. And these three, switching to reform, is a massive, massive move. Of course, it was only possible with some effort to clean up the local branch. Those of you who follow my work will have known and will have seen how there are those who controlled the branch with an extremist viewpoint, a racist platform, and an ego the size of, well, I don't know. So those of you who follow this work on Facebook will have seen the former chairman of Reform Oldham, who resigned himself, remember, and his entire committee resigned themselves, remember, has now taken to Facebook to smear me. Smear me all you want. I'm not the one standing for election. I'm the one who's campaigning for a national inquiry to be fit for purpose. If Mr. Paul Boots Eric of Marshall Eric Construction wants to smear the man who's at the forefront of leading a campaign for a national inquiry into the cover-up of the gang rape of children, then that's a reflection on him and his company. If Paul Boots Eric of Marshall Eric Construction wants to attack a man who has risked his life exposing the corruption in this town and the links to Pakistani gangsters, then that's a reflection on him. And of course, sharing the same smears and lies against me as told by the Labour Party politicians themselves. Well, I think that's again a reflection on him and his associates. I won't get drawn into it. My focus and my priority now in my hometown is to support these three brave individuals who have stuck their neck out, and hopefully they will appoint a fit for purpose branch committee and identify high caliber individuals who will contest the local elections in May. And this is what will shape the future of my town, your town, our cities, our villages. We have to get good people in local government in preparation to take over national government. Okay. There's a video I have on Sadiq Khan. It's the YouTube video, and I want to give it the fullness of time. I want to give Paul Wedger the fullness of time, so I'll do that tomorrow evening. I think when we come back, I will come back tomorrow evening because of what will play out with. What will play out also with what happens tomorrow in Parliament. As always, And there's so many of you watching this evening. My YouTube finger link has crashed on my laptop, so I'll just bring that up again. Try and reload that. There's just under 2,000 of you who've watched this evening. The work I do is only possible with your support. Everything I share I put out for free. I risk everything doing it. I risk everything and more. All I ask in return is you like, you comment, you share, you promote the content. You subscribe to Redwall and the Rabble if you can do so. Have the courage to do so. And if you can, the ask is a small one, I believe. It's the equivalent of 75 pence a week. You'll spend more on a packet of crisps and not think anything. Yet this is what keeps me going. So please, if you can afford to do so, take out a subscription to Redwall and the Rabble, and if you're on a free subscription and you can afford to do so, please upgrade. It makes all the difference to me. I'll see you tomorrow. Very, very good evening.
Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them. On the 20th of November 2003, James Ignatius O'Rourke McMahon was elected councillor for the Failsworth East Ward of Oldham. Deeply ambitious, he ruthlessly rose to power, and by 2011, he was already leader of the council. In 2015, exploiting a Labour Party loophole, he became MP for Oldham West and Royton. If only the people of the town knew then what they now know. Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.